I really love seeing people succeed. Like that's like, I just love it, man. Like whatever people decide they want to do. If you want to just get in the best shape of your life, I want to help you do that. If you just want to become a fighter, I want to do that. But you know, I truly care, and you know, it's really helped me or worked for me in my business right now.
Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show.
What's going on, Eagles? Welcome to the Fuel Hunt Show. I'm Joey. I'm here with my cousin and co-founder, Drew, and we are joined by Jonavin Webb today, a coach, entrepreneur, retired UFC fighter, owner of Webb Fitness and MMA in South Jersey, right?
Washington Township. Yep.
Washington Township. Pumped to have you here, man.
Oh, man, I'm excited to be here with you guys.
It's been a long time coming for us. You have met before personally, right?
Yeah.
We haven't met in person.
No.
It's been a long time coming, and I said that I was saying to Jonavin before we got on the show that like our mutual friends all speak very highly of him, his work ethic, and then also how you serve them, like the value that you bring to their lives.
Oh yeah, I try to do my best, you know.
He leads in the front, dude. He was telling me he's literally has a guy fighting on Friday, and then he's flying out to ADCC for Daiichi on like Saturday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I fly at 5 a.m., get there at 9 a.m. Tournament starts at 10. He's one of the first batches.
All in being an entrepreneur and father as well, like of three as well. It's like, it's just crazy.
Well, look, I mean, I gave you some flowers, and like immediately we have proof of it. Like there it is, right there, dude. There it is, right there. All right, so a large portion of our community, especially like the fighting portion of our community, the grappling portion of the community, know you. But I'm excited to get into your story. You know what I mean, and how you went from young Jonavin to who you are now. And the community getting to hear that story as well. So what was it like? You're a Jersey kid, right?
Yeah.
Jersey kid, born and raised.
Yeah, so I was, I grew up in like the Pennsauken, Cherry Hill area. And then in high school, I ended up moving more to the suburbs, to Marlton. Yeah. And, got to wrestle at a better school and had bigger opportunities, with better coaching and just a better facility, honestly. And that's really the ground of where my success came from, because, there was no direction where I was before. And then coming into a school that was like all about sports and again, I had like that backbone of core coaches that helped me along the way. And it literally paved me a nice path, to where I wanted to go.
Is that why you moved from the Pennsauken area?
Yeah, in eighth grade.
Is that what caused the move? Like you were looking for?
The kids that I was hanging out with started getting in trouble and, doing all the, just wasn't what my parents wanted me to go by. When I say parents, my mom and my stepfather, they raised me. I've been with my stepfather since I was 4 years old, and he's been, the person that I learned work ethic from, and and again, he worked his ass off to get us what we had, and we sold our house in Pennsauken, and they moved us to a townhouse in the suburbs, and it seems like we're kind of going down, by getting a smaller place and all that stuff, but really, he set me up for a brighter future.
Yeah, smaller place maybe, but bigger opportunities.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Bigger future. Yeah, I know that story. I know that story really well. So when did you start wrestling?
So I started as a young kid. My cousin started a year before me. So I have my mom is a 10th child. I had 13 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they all lived in South Jersey. So I had, we would show up to wrestling tournaments, and it'll look like a full team. It was just my family.
Yeah.
Need a bus.
Right? Yeah, it was just me and my guy cousins. Yeah. And again, a couple of them started a year before me, and my one cousin came home with this like 3-foot trophy, and I just remember being like, man, I want that.
Yeah. And
I was one of those kids that was like, wrestling's kind of weird. You got to wear the singlet and all that stuff. Like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, just try it. Yeah. So I went to like one practice, and then we had a tournament that same weekend. And I think I took like second place or third place. And when I won the trophy, it changed my life, man. Like I just remember getting it and being like, man, I worked and I earned that. And then I just got addicted to it, and I just started, wrestling as often, as frequently as I could.
How old was that?
I was probably 7 or 8. Yeah.
So you've been in grappling and combat sports since 7 or 8 years old. Damn. So high school, you must have had fun on the high school wrestling team, because I feel like the kids that do really, really well are the kids that have been doing it since that age.
Yeah. So it was a little bit of a different story. So when my parents moved me out of the neighborhood, I was just being a young punk kid, and I kind of had the reverse effect on me for a little, where I was like, I felt like I was supposed to be where I was, and I started acting out and getting in trouble and starting to hang with the wrong people in the new place, and doing all these things that I wasn't going down the right path. I ended up getting in trouble my freshman year in high school, and I get, where they tell me I'm out of my high school, right?
They're gonna expel you.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So, long story short, my biological dad was out of prison at this point, and he had a place in another town, which wasn't a great town, and they sent me there for a month. And I was trying to wrestle on this team, and these guys, I was a freshman, and I'm like, not to toot my own horn, but I was just way better than anyone on the team, and I just knew that I could never,
a challenging environment.
could grow where I was. So they end up setting up a meeting with my vice principal, who was also the athletic director of my.
So they didn't just threaten to expel you; they expelled you. They were like, "Oh, you're out of here."
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then, so then I ended up. We sat down, had the meeting, and they're like, "Listen, you're not eligible to wrestle for the rest of the year, right? But we're gonna let you come back. You're gonna make every single practice. If you miss a practice, you're done, right?
So you're like expelled for good.
Yeah. So then I ended up going to all these practices. The coaches were pushing me. They were like trying to make me quit, but in a way that they were like, it's either gonna make me or break me.
Knock the punk out of you, dude.
Yeah.
Right?
And I showed up every day, and then I had to watch my friends wrestle. I couldn't compete.
You have to go to the matches.
I went to every match,
every tournament,
and just watch. And then my sophomore year, halfway through the sophomore year, is when they let me back on, where I was eligible to wrestle again. And
what was worse, wrestling for that short amount of time in an environment where you weren't growing and being challenged, or having to go to all the matches at your former school and not wrestle?
Honestly,
or were they both terrible?
It was both terrible, but going and wrestling over there, and it was just.
You're like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, it's just like, man, what am I doing?
It's funny that you say that too, like being in the room doing the work and not getting to experience the reward of it at all. Like wrestling changes you as a person, I think. Like I wrestled my junior, senior year, not good at all, like just very below average, but I said to my wife, like being in that room, like literally made me a different person. Just doing the same hard work that all the other guys in wrestling. I never experienced anything like that before in my life. Like I got asked to come to workouts by a friend that was just like doing the workouts, and I ended up staying on the team and he didn't. But so I'm like, I want my son to wrestle like in college one day. But I remember when he was like 4 years old, I'm like, Amanda, we should get him to wrestle. And she said, "What do you mean? Like this is?" Like, I'm like, "No, you don't get it. It's really good. Like you don't get it though. You don't get it. It's really good for him." Like, and then it's just been a part of our life ever since. But I just think it's funny. You don't know what it's like until you're in there in the wrestling room.
But I really do think that sitting out for that year is really good for me.
Yeah,
it made me like have a drive again to like want to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get in wrestling, it's tough, man. It's tough, and there's no real glory in it because you're not having the girls coming to your matches cheering you on like it's a basketball game or a football game. Yeah. Your friends aren't coming to your matches. Like, there's no big glory when you're in high school. At least in my high school, it wasn't like that. So, but sitting out it made me be like, man, they took it away. Now, when I get it back, I'm going to do everything I can with it.
So was your ego at that age like kind of get in the way because you were good, we'll say like an above average wrestler, like a good wrestler at that point. So like that's when you really had to be checked.
Yeah, I mean, it checked me.
Yeah, it's like a perfect time in your life. Then you're like, okay, like my ego's in check now.
Plus, it seemed like you were receiving some blessings at that time too.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean. You were receiving some blessings, new neighborhood, new school, new program, the right program, and maybe like we all do. Maybe you just thought like, hey man, like I don't really deserve this.
Exactly.
And then you started what we call nowadays self-sabotage, but really just being like a punk kid again. You know what I mean? Which we've all done.
Yeah.
We've all done.
What I love about it the most is that I have a lot of things that I can relate to these new kids that are coming up. You know, there's kids that walk through the doors in my gym and I can see where they're at because I was there. Yeah. And it's like, man, look, I know I look like I'm, do well now and, everything kind of went my way, but that's not how life is, right? Like I got thrown a lot of stuff and I just made the best of it and I still try to make the best of it. So, I can help you get to where you want to go because I've been there.
Yeah, that's a life lesson right there. And shout out to the superintendent or vice principal or whoever.
My high school that I ended up going to had 1,000 kids just in my grade.
Yeah, that's wild.
Right? Giant school.
That's wild.
And so our principals, you never talk to the actual principal. It was by the letter in your last name. So it was alphabetical order. You had a vice president, and let's say there were 6 of them, right? I got lucky that the last one, because my last name's W, right? Like, the last one was also the athletic director. So
there you go.
Yeah. So it worked out. Yeah.
And shout out to him. Yeah. Shout out to him because he put in place what probably seemed like a punishment to you, but it changed your life.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? He took something away that you really wanted, and that just made you want it more, and gave you a full head of steam. Shout out to him.
I mean, shout out to all the practices, tournaments, and matches. Like that's like. Not to pat you on the back, but that's like brutal.
It was, it was, man. Just being on the bus, just knowing that
plus you're doing all the work. Yeah. You're doing all the work for it, and then you can't participate. So did they sit you down at the end of the year or after that probation period? Did they sit you down and say like, hey man, like we're proud of you for what you did? Or was it kind of just business as usual? You're back.
There was one coach. His name was Coach Corelli, and he kind of just took me under his wing. And at first, I thought he hated me, right? Like he was just an assistant coach. The head coach didn't really, he liked me, but he didn't like give me that much attention. But like this one coach, he would, after the practice is done, he would grab me and just be like, "Hey, we're gonna do this." Right, we're gonna do extra sprints. We're gonna do these things that we call monkey rolls, which sucks. You put weighted vest on and you're, hopping up and down, and it was a lot. And I was like, man, this guy really wants to make me quit, but really he was just pushing me to get better.
Crazy thing is, he's probably doing it because he saw your potential.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I would hear them say those things, but I didn't know what it meant in the moment. Right? I didn't know what potential.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
What are you talking about? I'm just a regular kid, like whatever.
Exactly.
Yep.
And but yeah, he pushed me a lot, and then he started coming to all my fights when I started fighting.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty
so
cool.
So you still in contact though?
I mean, I haven't talked to him in years now.
Yeah.
Life's just kind of happened, and I don't even live in that town anymore. I moved like 30 more minutes south where my gym is now.
Gotcha.
And now it's just 3 kids. 2 businesses and going to all these fights every weekend. I love that all of our guys are succeeding, but it's like, man, every weekend we have something going on.
Planes, trains, automobiles, man. Yeah. Well, shout out to both of them, man, because they altered the course of your life.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
And
that's the power of a good teacher, power of a good coach. I got to imagine that it kind of shaped like who you are as a coach now and how you show up at Webb.
Yeah.
And even outside of Webb for your guys and at Marquez.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I said, without them, I would be a no one. I really think I was on a path that just wasn't going to lead to a good place. And they came in and just put me on a better path. And again, people can do that, and then I could still shit the bed there and not do what I need to do. But, they gave me that option, that new option to be able to have a better path.
Yeah.
So.
We were talking about it earlier. Like, we do a couple shows a day. We were talking about it earlier with another guest. Like, you can't do it alone.
No.
And this is proof of that. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like the work that you need to be done. Most of it, the work is done alone, that discipline.
Yeah.
But you can do it alone. It's not just that. It's people, leaning into you with their wisdom and giving you opportunities, or sometimes like smacking you around a little bit when you need to be smacked around and taking something away. You know what I mean? So you want it more. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Amazing story. So when wrestling is like in your DNA, right? Like when did jiu-jitsu start?
So it's a
In
funny
high school
story.
too,
So
or
yeah,
no?
so my cousin, another cousin, who's actually like 10 years old.
Well, there's a lot of them, so the
Yeah.
probability that like one of them's gonna bring something is good.
My senior year in high school, I just finished wrestling.
Yeah.
Had a really good season, and now I'm like, looking at.
Did you get 100 wins in high
college?
school?
Yeah. So I only wrestled for really 2.5 years, and I won districts 3 years and had 100. So
Damn.
So my cousin was like, "Hey, do you want to come to a grappling class?"
Yeah.
I never heard of
What
jiu-jitsu
year is
before.
this around?
This is like 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
So-
yeah, it's
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah.
Jonathan's like a 3rd-degree black belt.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
Yeah.
like
So-
crazy.
I left. I left that out under Henzo.
Yeah,
No,
so
yeah.
Henzo Gracie and Brian McPherson.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Brian McPherson, he's my like original coach, so my cousin was a police officer, and Brian McPherson was a major in the state police in New Jersey, and he just opened a school that week, and he was like, "Hey, come to this grappling class," and I was like, "All right." Grappling was wrestling to me. I had no idea what jiu-jitsu was. Right? Like I show up, I have my wrestling shoes, I have a headgear, I have everything because I think I'm
Ready to
going
go?
to wrestle.
Yeah.
And I show up and,
They're
I
like,
love
no
my
singlet,
coach, but
no
they're
singlet.
all, at the time, everyone in there was 40 years old plus,
Yeah.
right? So my coach, he's a black belt. There's a brown belt who's like 40 years old. He was there, which I didn't know what the colored belts were, obviously. And then there was a purple belt who's like 40 years old.
Yeah. A lot of old man strength in that room.
And geese, right? Like,
All in gi.
Yeah.
So then I was like, I look at my cousin, I'm like, I'm going to kill these guys.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm going to kill them.
Yeah.
And then he's like, all right, like, go ahead, go. So I start rolling with them.
I love this,
And,
dude. I love this.
back then, like, you never started on the feet in jiu-jitsu. A lot of times you start on your knees and then you go, right? Because everyone would think you get hurt if you wrestled.
Yeah.
And so we start on the knees, and I kind of like wrestle forward and take the guy down, and then he chokes me. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Right?
Did they give you like the tap early, tap often advice at least?
I had no idea.
It sounds like a setup, dude.
So then I was like, can we start on the feet?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And then the coach was like, yeah, start on the feet.
Yeah.
So I start on the feet. I take him down, go to his back, because in wrestling we get to the back as well, right? And I get to his back thinking I'm in a good place, and I had my feet crossed.
Oh my God.
Like this, and then he steps over and like ankle locks me.
Yeah.
And I just remember like, what? Man, I couldn't believe what was happening to me. Every time I thought I was doing something good, I was running into a submission every time.
Yeah.
And I just remember on the way home just being like, man, whatever they just did to me, I want to be able to do to someone else. And like, I love wrestling, but everything I knew about wrestling just was like, yo, forget wrestling. I want to figure out this thing over here.
Yeah.
And so I signed up, and I was like his first actual student there. So the other guys were from his like school that he trained at, and they were just there like, because he just opened.
Yeah,
like, they came and hung out.
Supporting
So
him.
me and my
Yeah.
cousin were like the first ones there.
Oh, amazing.
And so I was getting privates or semi-privates
Yes.
every
Yep.
practice.
Is your cousin still training?
No. He ended up getting in like a chase.
Yeah.
He's going up a ladder and had like broke his leg like real bad, and then stopped training for a while. Then tried to come back, and then life just kind of happened. But like I said, he's the one who like introduced me to it, and so jiu-jitsu goes. I'm doing jiu-jitsu, going into my freshman year of college. I'm gonna wrestle my freshman year in college. So I'm doing wrestling practices and then leaving wrestling practice and going straight to jiu-jitsu practice.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm wrestling just because it's what I did. Like the love wasn't there anymore, to be honest. Like, my love was with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I was going, and then I was a blue belt now. I got my blue belt in like 6 months or maybe seven months. And me and the coach ended up getting into a little altercation, man. And I was like, man, I'm done with wrestling. I'm just gonna.
Your wrestling coach.
Yeah, my wrestling coach, not my. I'll never. McPherson. I was so scared of him as a kid. He's the guy I needed at that age too, because now like I'm becoming a man, but I didn't know what being a man was yet, right? And he was that guy that I looked up to. He was a family man. He worked hard. He was still a police officer while he was doing owning a school. And I wanted to be like him, And so, again, that wrestling.
Was it just was it the program at this is in college, right? So was it the program and the coaches?
So the coach was really young. He was only a few years older than I was. Yeah. And we just butted heads a lot. And like him and a lot of the guys on the team. Yeah. And I was just like, man, why am I doing this? Like, like I'm in it kind of half-assed anyway. So like,
that's what Parker, my son, like loves jiu-jitsu and also loves wrestling. It's like I'm kind of playing like this game with wrestling because I just feel a lot of the kids I wrestled with in high school who wrestled at a young age, they kind of like fell out of love with it by the end.
Out.
Yeah,
it is intense
because it's not like other sports, dude. You're fucking like every practice, like he plays baseball as well. Every baseball practice is like fun, but then a wrestling practice is like a fucking.
See, I don't have any. I don't have any insight into that world.
It's like a jiu-jitsu practice, I would say, times 5.
So whatever you do in a jiu-jitsu practice is like so you can flow in jiu-jitsu a lot. Could you flow in wrestling? Yes, but do they flow in wrestling?
No.
Practice? Not at
and that's every day for like 6 days a week.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I have no frame of reference.
I think of it like a boot camp.
Yeah.
They're trying to break you down to build you
back up. Yeah.
And if you can't handle getting broken down, it can.
Well, my first jiu-jitsu class, I had a similar experience to you, right? Where like I had no idea what was happening, but I needed to figure it out. And picture me with like no wrestling experience, no combat experience, like just strength training, powerlifting, endurance stuff. I'm coming in and I'm like, well, this is really something.
And I always give credit to people that started like 40 or so, like because I started whenever I was like 30 something, but I was like, at least I had known what getting my head bounced off a mat felt like. You know what I mean? Like people that like you that like have never felt that before. Like,
I fought growing up, but it was like it was hands. Like everybody just you punched the dude and that was it.
I will say that these days I love students that never have done anything before.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I can like help mold them.
Yeah, raw material, man.
And sometimes when you have habits that you've done since you were 5 years old, 6 years old, it's hard to unlearn that.
And also, do you feel like the wrestlers come in with like not ego, for lack of a better word, but like they think they should be good?
Yeah.
Like
so there's some that do and some that don't. So we have a kid right now on my team, a young kid, and he's like a really good wrestler from New Jersey. Yeah. And he came in and he started pulling guard right away. Yeah. Right? And I just remember looking at him like, man, what's this kid doing? Yeah. And then I started looking like, he's trying to learn jiu-jitsu. He's forgetting about the wrestling and just trying to learn. This kid is a beast. Like he's going to be the next big thing. And, he's winning all these tournaments. He'll go up to higher, divisions and he's smoking people. And I really believe that,
respect, man.
He was able to take a couple steps back to like relearn some new things and then go. And then there's guys that come in that you're like, man, this guy's like a champion wrestler, and then they come in and they suck. It's because they don't open up. They stay closed-minded, and that's in life period. You stay closed-minded, you can only go so far. So 100%. You go in with an open mind, you can really learn more than you can ever believe.
Yeah, comfort zone's like your confidence zone. And if you're coming in with certain tools and you're strong and you're refusing to leave that comfort zone, that confidence, those strengths, and not work on your weaknesses and your discomfort zone, you're not going to grow, man. Yeah. Much respect to him for saying like, hey, I'm going to put the tools away in the toolbox and I'm just going to like poke hard and like see what happens,
That little gem of wisdom Jonavin just dropped there, like made me think of like being entrepreneur, father, coach. Like, do you think, how much of your time do you believe is spent like being a coach or a father, like just on general life? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, yes, you're like the black belt and coach in jiu-jitsu, but I assume that so many of your students come to you for so many things. Like, you're probably helping them through life, like most of them.
Yeah. So I feel like I talk with my wife all the time about this, but I'm in like the payback phase right now, right? Like, there's so many people that came into my life, and when I needed something, they were there for me. And, you know, whatever it was, if it was just like a mental thing, you know, if it was, hey, what should I do with school or financially? Like, someone would always give me, you know, advice and you know, what to do. And now I'm trying to pay that back as much as I can.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is a really crazy sport. When you step back and you look at it, you have to be a little crazy to do what we do. Yeah, and sometimes with that, you're gonna run into a lot of mental health stuff, and you know, we deal with that a lot at the gym. I've dealt with it a lot with my friends and family, and that's like my biggest thing is I'm always trying to help, because you know, I've lost very close people to me to mental health, so like that's. You know, I'll get phone calls at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes, you know, and I'm answering it and trying to help them and you know, but hey man, you can talk to me, but there's also professionals who can, you know, get you where you need to go. Like, you know, call this number, do these things. And, you know, that's like, I hate that it happens, but I love that I'm able to help people out with that. Yeah. And more than anything, you know, all the other stuff, like, you know, hey, do this to become a champion. That's great. Yeah. Right. But, again, just being like learning how to love yourself and to be a good person is so much more important. And I feel like I get to help people, you know, find themselves and love themselves.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. It's like they can come and they can do the work on the mats, but that's not the only work that needs to be done. Yeah. You know, there's other work that needs to be done outside of that. And when they do that work, they have you there with them too. Yeah. And also you giving them the proper guidance, saying like, look, I can speak to you from experience. I always got your back. Let's talk it out. But, you know, there are like resources to help you even further. Yeah. So it's invaluable in a coach.
I'm someone as a coach too, right? Like, I never would tell anyone that I think I know everything, right? Like with techniques, with, you know, maybe their diets or whatever it is. And then the same thing, you know, off the mats. I don't believe there's one person in the world that knows everything. So you got to be able to like find where I can find the right information from. And if I can just get someone close to that, to where they need to go, that's, I feel like, a win for me. So, you know, trying to just push people in the right direction to get the help they need or to get to where they want to go. That's what I feel like I'm there for.
You're paying back what people did for you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Set you on the right path. You know what I mean? Set you in the right direction, you know, whether you knew it or not. So you're, so now you have your blue belt, right?
Yeah.
Like at some point, well, when did you start coaching?
So
did you start coaching early?
I started coaching very early. So my coach was a major in the state police, and he was like on this government detail. So like anytime, you know, governor or whoever, the president's coming to town, he was like on these details where he would get a phone call, his phone would ring, and he would have to just leave the gym immediately. Right. So again, I'm one of the first of 2-3 students, and he'd be like, "Hey, John, can you finish the class?"
Okay.
Like, all right. Now I'm 17, 18 years old, teaching 30, 40-year-olds.
Now you know,
a year into training,
you know what needs to be done, but like finding the words and putting yourself on a platform and finding the words to teach, that'd be nerve-wracking.
This is a crazy thing, and again, my wife, me and my wife, we've known each other since we were 14 years old. Yeah. And public speaking was my biggest fear in the entire world. right? So like I can teach a class for the most part.
Yep.
And then the hardest thing for me, I would have anxiety attacks about having to talk at the end of the class. Yeah. Right? Everyone's standing there looking at you. You're just there like, hey, good job, guys.
They're waiting for you to say something. Like, what do we do next?
They want some wisdom.
When I started fighting, fighting didn't scare me. I could walk into a cage and I'll fight anyone.
Yeah.
Right? Doing the interviews beforehand, doing the, video of,
Press.
When you're walking out and you're doing that, talking about the fight, I'll have sweating beforehand just thinking about it. And something just came to me where I was like, hey man, this is making me really uncomfortable. Like, how can I figure this out? And the only way to do it was by just doing it more.
Reps.
And I just started, I used to say no to a lot of interviews. People would call and be like, can you do, this is like before podcasting was really big.
Yeah.
But they were like, hey, can we do this phone call interview or this? And I was just like, no, I can't do it. Then I started just being like, hey, yes, I'll do everyone. I was doing all these ones for like these tiny companies, big companies, or whatever it was. I would just do it to get comfortable.
Man.
Oh yeah,
you're killing it now. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're killing it now.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I gotta imagine at the end of class, like they look like you've given them instruction. They trust you, they respect you, and now they're looking like for like the cap on it, like the wisdom.
They want that wisdom.
And it was hard for me because again, I'm 17, 18, maybe 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm nowhere in life yet.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't have money.
Yeah.
I'm scraping for dollars just to pay for my tuition for the gym, and like these guys, there was guys pulling up in Corvettes and all these things. They already have. They're successful. They have families, like all this stuff, and I'm trying to tell them what to be better at, or what to do or how to think.
Yep.
That aside, the wisdom aside, what was it like coaching at that level? Because like, say you're no more than a year in. Like I've taught Americanas to 6-year-olds, right? But like when Coach McPherson's like, all right, Jonavin, you got the rest of the class, I gotta go. Like how comfortable do you feel teaching like triangles or what I mean? I don't know, whatever you were teaching at the time.
So in the beginning, it was like I would assume that everyone knew how to do it for the most part. Like, hey, just lock your legs like this and then grab the head, do this, right? And I would just assume, because I was someone who, if I watched you guys do a move, I can kind of pick up on it. Yeah. I was never someone who could read a book and like do these things and learn that way. But if I can see it, I can my body could figure out how to do it after at least a few reps, right?
Yeah.
And I would just assume everyone learned how I did. And that's not the case at all, right? And then I started and my coach would tell me hey, you got to talk to them like they're kindergartners, right? Talk to them.
That does a lot for your anxiety.
Yeah.
Now you're like,
but it's
I gotta.
I'm trying to. I can't assume that they know anything, how to keep their weight, how to whatever, their balance. So I would always just try to bring it down to layman terms as much as possible, and just slow everything down and let people mess up. That was another thing. You're not going to perfect something right away. Yeah. The best way to perfect something is to keep trying it and failing at it and trying to make adjustments on it.
Yeah. And
that's a big thing that I do with my guys now. I don't really sit and teach a bunch of moves step by step by step.
Yep.
I like to put guys and girls into positions, and then, hey, partner A is trying to work offensively from here. Partner B is trying to work defensively from here. Yeah. You work your way to it or out of it, and then once you get a finish or you're out, then we reset and we go again. And it shouldn't be 100% live. It's just you're trying to work with each other, and I feel like that's where they're learning the most from right now.
That's so interesting. That's because I just recently switched over to movement art with Danny and Nick, and that's how we do the majority of our trades, positional and 50-60%, right? And it's that's where you're learning, because you're actually applying things. It seems as though, at least the people that you and them, that antiquated way of teaching jiu-jitsu is kind of I don't know, going away.
You kind of like the way I look at it is like you have to feel what it isn't before you can actually feel what it is. Like you have to feel like what it feels like to not do it with your body.
Yeah.
Before
I
you
truly
can
believe that.
feel what
It's
it
like-
feels like. That what it's not tells you what it is, and it's got to be slowed down because at full speed you can't absorb.
A part I really struggled with in jiu-jitsu was like, all right, I can do a triangle on a guy a million times when he's not resisting at all.
back,
Like it's pretty easy. Like, but then when there's any kind of resistance, it's like, what the hell? I can't do this at all. Like, you know what I mean?
And I really think it comes down to even like simplify it more is even just the three of us, right? We're all different than each other, right? Like different body styles, different backgrounds,
Some of us
all these things.
much more
Like,
jacked.
we can do the same moves slightly different from each other, and it can work for you and work for you your own way, work for me my own way. And jiu-jitsu is all about finding your own thing. So, if you just tell them, hey, you have to do it this way, do it that way, maybe it's not the way that's going to work for them. And then, they try it in a live and now they're not successful. So, that's why I like people to figure it out on their own.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you start coaching early. When does, and I'm skipping forward a little bit. I don't know if you have more coach questions.
I was going to ask when fighting comes in.
Yeah, so like when does now MMA start to, because.
Like when do you want to start getting punched in the face?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll tell
because there was no MMA with no MMA being done at McPherson, right?
Zero. We didn't even have no gi. It was just gi. That I was training. Yeah. So
how's that come?
Which probably was the majority of the case in jiu-jitsu at that time.
Yeah, at that time it was. And so this is a crazy story. I've told it, a bunch of times. I always get people coming up to me like, "Are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, this is how you started?"
We love crazy stories. Bring it.
So I started working in security when I was 18, right? And so again, I'm already a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Like private security or like bouncing or like both?
So I worked. My first security job ever was at Delilah's, like in the city.
Smart.
Okay.
Smart.
I mean, look, you gotta take a place.
Yeah.
I mean,
security.
So so I started working there, and this guy comes up to me out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, you fight MMA?" Because I've had cauliflower. I had my first surgery on my ears when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
You had to have a cauliflower ear surgery?
Yeah, I had it because it closed like in
Over the
my
canal?
eardrum. So then, so they had to like cut it, put a stent in, and then let it like drain.
It's funny when you were telling the story about how long you'd done combat sport, or like I was like, his ears aren't that bad.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was mid story. I was thinking like, damn, it's not that, I was like, damn, it's not that bad.
Yeah, luckily it's been pretty good since. But so the guy's like, his name was Scott Morgan. He owned a company called New Breed Fighters, which is like, it was a big organization years ago for amateurs, and then and they were in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You fight MMA?" And I said, "No, I do jiu-jitsu and I wrestle." And this is about a couple weeks before the altercation with my wrestling coach. And he's like, "Hey, if you ever want to fight, here's my card." Right?
Yeah.
And I remember I had this little piece of crap, little Honda Accord, and I took the card and I put it down by like the cup holder, and it sat there for like a few weeks, and there was water bottles all over the the seats.
Card had water spilled on it and all sorts of stuff.
And so I get into that thing with the coach, and I remember the card, and I was like, let me give this guy a call and like see what you have to do to be a fighter. I have no idea what you have to do, because there was always those like, people would say, I got to get my hands registered to fight and all this stuff. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And I told him, I was like, "Hey, what do I have to do? Like, how do I qualify to be a fighter?" And he's like, "Well, there's a funny thing. You're 175, right? Like 175 pounds?" Because I was wrestling 174 in college. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like 176 right now, like 177. And he's like, "Well, I have a fight. One fighter fell off. It's in 2 weeks." He's like, the guys from like a striking gym has no grappling at all. Like, you know, would you want to do it? And I was like, let me give you a call back. So I called McPherson.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of want to do this thing as like a bucket list thing, you know, just one time, just to like see how it feels. And it's an MMA fight. And he's like, are you sure? and I was like, yeah.
He's like, you got a good thing going here.
And he's like, if you want to do it, I have your back. Like, I'll be there for you. And I was like, all right. So I went. I did one boxing practice with this guy Prince Badia Juma, who was he fought Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you what the class was. We get there, no warm up or anything. He was like, you have $1 in your pocket?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I pulled out the $1. He said, put it on your shoulder. So
bam.
Put it here, and then he said, put your chin on the $1. So I was just here, and he's like, all right, just keep throwing jabs. Every time you drop the $1, dollar drops on the floor. You gotta do 10 push-ups.
Wow.
And I did an hour of just doing that, right?
So that was the class.
And I was like, I hate boxing, right? Like, never doing boxing again.
But you're committed at this point to the fight.
Yeah. But this is it. I only got that linked up because someone I knew him. And he just did this one training session with me, and then that was it. And again, it was just chin on shoulder, throwing a jab.
You ever bring that drill back for any of your?
I did it not too long ago, actually.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and so then I was like, man, I'm not doing striking anymore. I'm just gonna grapple. So I go out there.
Where was the fight?
It was in Atlantic City, at the resorts.
Okay.
And it's like big crowd. So somehow, first fight, I sold like 100 tickets to this fight.
All right, now.
Right? In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, I'm from South Jersey. Like, all my friends love Atlantic City. Like, we would find any reason to go down there. I'm 19 years old now at this point. It was like my it was my birthday week of turning 19.
Nice.
And I go to the fight, didn't get hit one time, get an arm bar from the mount, right?
Wow.
And I remember getting my hand raised, and it felt like no wrestling match I've ever done, no jiu-jitsu tournament I've ever done. It was like this, it was just this crazy adrenaline thing, and I was like, man, I found my new thing. This is it. Like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Second fight comes, I take another fight like a month or two later. Still.
I was gonna say, did you do any striking?
Still no striking.
You haven't gotten touched.
Never got punched.
So how long was the first fight?
It went to the second round, but they were. It was a 3-minute round, amateur. So the first round, I took him down, held him.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Second round, he tries to throw a punch, but I like go under, take him down, get to the mount, armbar him right away.
Yeah.
So then, second fight.
Yeah.
If you put the two fights, like play them at the same time, they pretty much went the same exact way. Armbar from mount.
Yeah.
Second fight, right? And I was like, oh.
Now the second guy, was he striker only?
Yeah, it was another striker. And, you know, because there was no MMA gyms like that.
That's what I was thinking while you're telling this story. Like, the world of MMA is way different.
It was boxers versus, you know, like kickboxers,
karate,
wrestlers, jiu-jitsu, karate.
Yeah.
Right? So it was like, man, it was, when you grabbed them, it was like I was grabbing a baby. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like, as soon as I grabbed them, if they would have hit me, it would have been a different story. But because I grabbed them, it was like, they just felt like they didn't know what they were doing.
I always think that's so interesting nowadays too, like knowing the world of MMA and the UFC, how it is, but like to disregard jiu-jitsu or like, and only be a one-dimensional fighter. And I'm a casual, so, but to only be a one-dimensional fighter is like kind of crazy at this point.
It's almost impossible these days.
Yeah.
Because you get these guys like that came in, like Sean Brady, right?
Yep.
He started at an MMA gym with Julio, right? And you know, he came in kickboxing, wrestling. He never wrestled a day in his life before he started, but he's the best wrestler I know.
Yeah.
Right? We have national champions come in and he just ragdolls them like they've never trained before.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just a new hybrid thing, you know? And, you know, so I take those fights. I go to my third fight now, and I got hit for the first time. And I just remember looking
Early on
at my
fight?
coach. No. So
Okay.
first round, I took him down like 5 times.
Yeah.
You know, but he kept getting up. This is the first person that got up.
You had never been punched in the face?
Never been punched in my face. Not even in a street fight.
I was gonna say, how about growing
Because street
up?
fights, I would just wrestle.
Being a bouncer is still...
Yeah, never. And this dude hit me.
Probably as hard as he
And
could.
I looked back at my coach like, oh shit. Like, this is different. Like, and the guy ended up getting disqualified for hitting me illegally. Right?
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And so I get my hand raised. I take pictures with the ring card girls. I'm taking pictures with my friends. We get to the back. They're taking off my gloves and my shin guards because we had to wear the shin guards.
Yeah.
And I'm taking everything off. And I was like, why are you guys taking this off?
Yeah.
And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, I'm the next fight. And they're like, what? They're like, look at you. You're all sweaty. And I look down and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm next. So I got a concussion. So then I was like, oh my God. So then my coach, who was, he trained under Ricardo Almeida.
Yeah.
And who had Frankie Edgar and, you know, Eddie Alvarez was going there and Edson Barbosa and all those guys. And Nick Catone, like there's Dante Rivera, like, all these guys were at this gym that I had access to now. And my coach was like, hey, you have to go up there and train with these guys. Like, if you want to be an MMA fighter, you have to train MMA. So I started just going up there and I started sparring. My first day of sparring, I'm sparring Frankie Edgar, right? Because you remember, he was the 155-pound champion at the time. He just beat BJ Penn when I started training with him. And I was only I know I'm big now, but, you know, back then I was only 175 pounds.
Sure.
And I'm only, at the time, maybe 15 pounds heavier than him when he was not in camp. And so I'm sparring with him all the time. I'm sparring with all these guys.
First practice.
I'm getting my ass kicked.
Yeah, what was that first sparring session like with him?
Yeah,
That's what I
man.
was going to ask. Like, how'd it go?
I was like, all right, I'm just going to be able to wrestle him, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, he's a good wrestler too.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't fade. So like someone like Frankie, you have to get him early, like try to beat him early because he's going to keep going up while your tank's going down. And oh man, there used to be some crazy days where I'll leave there and be like, what am I doing? Like, I can't, like, I don't know why.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, but that changed everything for me. And then I started fighting, you know, the right way. Like, I'm starting to do MMA, not just jiu-jitsu. And then, you know, then I moved to Philly because I tore my shoulder. My second pro fight, I tore my shoulder after the fight. And then a gym in Philly was opening up. And then that's when me, Paul Felder, Sean Brady, Pat Sabatini, all of us, like, we came together. We all came from different schools.
Yeah.
And then made this, like, one team.
Convened, yeah.
And I moved to Philly, lived above the gym for 2 years. The apartment didn't have showers or whatever. Like, I had to go down to the gym to shower. There was no kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, and I slummed it for 2 years, and I kept telling myself, like, I'm gonna make it to the UFC in 2 years. That was my number, because if not, I was gonna become a police officer. I was actually gonna go through the police academy. And I kept saying, it's 2 years, and I swear 2 years on the dot, I got the phone call.
You got the call.
Yeah, and it was like,
How it works.
shit. Like,
How many fights were you?
It's happening.
How many fights in were you at that time?
So I was 9 fights in when I got the call. So I was 8-0, but then I had one no contest with Lyman Good.
Oh, wow.
Oh, with Lyman.
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
you know that?
I didn't know that.
I was a lot smaller than Lyman back then.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
But we had
He's
a no
friend.
contest.
He's been on the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and
He actually, literally, he just texted me before you came.
Really?
Yeah. He's a good dude.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. And then we were set to do a rematch. And 2 weeks before our fight, I got the call to the UFC.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's all this thing like, his team was mad and, whatever, like he should have got the call, but then I got it. But then he ended up fighting the same day too. And then he got called 2 weeks after I got called. So it ended up working out. And then I thought we would, fight in the UFC, but it just never happened. But, everything just kind of happened. And, it led me to where I am now.
Yeah. What, so when does Webb open? When does your school open?
Yeah. So what happened was,
was it when you were in the UFC?
No. So I left the UFC. I was, fighting Cage Fury again. I went and fought in Russia.
Were you trying to get back into the UFC?
Yeah. So I left the UFC and then I went, I was 4-0 outside the UFC again. Right. I went and just fought, but I was doing these camps, half-ass. So I'm someone who hates excuses, right? We have this talk every day at Marquez and at my gym as well. And it's, if you want to be a champion, there can't be one excuse for why you didn't come to training, why your diet's wrong, why you're not resting enough, all those things. There can't be an excuse, right? And if this is what you want to do. And I felt myself starting to make these little excuses. And I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like, and at this time now I have kids and, I'm not going to use names and stuff, but we had a coach that was in and out. And before Marquez came in and kind of took over, and I was stuck trying to coach while I was trying to fight. So I'm running Felder through his camp. I'm running Brady through his camp. I'm running all these guys through their camps while I'm in the same practice. Yeah. Right? I'm trying to do the workout while, be like, hey, make sure you slip when you do this. And again, no excuses, but I had to look myself in the mirror and make a decision. And it was, am I going to be 100% in the coaching, or am I going to be 100% in the fighting? And I really did feel like I had another run. And at one point I was like, I'm going to fight again. Right. I'm just going to focus on coaching right now. But there's this thing with coaching for me. I get the same fulfillment through these guys. Right. And for some people, I don't think they will get that fulfillment, but for me, when they win, I win. Right. And nothing's better than like, I'm just going to put a scenario out there. Joe Pyfer, when he fought Al-Hassan, we were drilling this thing for a couple weeks before the fight. And his camera guy who did his documentary came up to me and was like, hey, how do you think Joe's going to win this fight? And I said, I think he's going to finish him with this joke. Right? Like he's been doing this thing and it's working so good in practice, and he goes out there, does the joke. Yeah. And that was like, man, it was just this feeling I've never felt before. And I was like, all right, I'm doing the right thing, man. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I get to help more people, not just myself now. And, I love doing it, and I wouldn't change anything, like it would be nice. I don't get those cameras on me all the time. I'm not signing autographs and doing all that kind of stuff anymore, or like very rarely.
Not yet, so, not until you're world-renowned coach.
Yeah,
and then you gotta...
but that's not what I was ever in it for, anyways. I just love the game. Like this was a big chess match to me, and I just wanted to be the best chess player, and now I just get to coach them.
Yeah, and it's like fully embracing your payback era.
Yeah,
paying it back.
Yeah,
Man, it seems like there's a couple of pivotal moments in your life. When you first saw that 3-foot-high trophy.
Yeah.
Then when you got your hand, or when you got your hand raised, when you started jiu-jitsu and that, and then now, the moments that you share with your team through them as they fight seem to, like, the moments just keep getting more and more meaningful, more and more impactful. That's like, if you're going to play the game, that's the way you want to play it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Amazing. So why don't we talk a little bit about Webb Fitness and MMA, because you got a little something different going on there, right? Like, it's not just an MMA gym or school.
So we have all kind of people at my gym, you know. I actually bought my gym from it was a UFC gym, so like a franchise style gym.
Oh, was it?
And I used to work there, right? So since I was 19, I worked part-time at a UFC gym. And, you know, the owner, his daughter was actually like a singer, and she was like traveling the country and doing all these things. And he wanted, you know, he wanted to be her like manager. So
he wanted out?
He ended up wanting out. So he comes to me and is like, hey, you know, are you interested in buying the gym?
Yeah.
And, you know, MMA, there's not a crazy amount of money in there. And some people can make a lot of money, but I didn't make that much money from the fighting side of it. And, you know, I was like, I don't know. And then my main sponsor throughout my fight career, since I was an amateur all the way through pro, he was like, I'll buy it. Right?
Amazing.
He's like, I'll buy it. And it came with like a couple hundred members, and it came with all the equipment, and all this stuff. And he was like, let me, you know, buy it, and then we could be partners in it.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and then I was like, you know what? Like,
yep.
I had my daughter. My daughter was young, and I was like, you know, this would ground me, because at the time I was traveling to New Mexico training with Cowboy for all his fights. And, you know, I was leaving my daughter for like months at a time.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife. And, you know, I just had to make that decision to, like, hey, this is going to keep me grounded at home. And so I pulled the trigger on it. We did it. We decided to defranchise it. And just, I wanted to be like that hometown gym, but also offer what these big box gyms have. So we have classes all day, right? It's
not have you seen their schedule?
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of alluding to. Like, you got a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah,
it's crazy. What I mean?
So we'll have, you know, like boxing and kickboxing cardio style classes, right? Then we'll have boxing and kickboxing like intermediate style classes where you're doing drills with a partner, but it's not hard sparring, right? And then we have the hardcore, you know, Muay Thai and advanced boxing classes where we're sparring, right? And then we have jiu-jitsu, we have the gi, no gi, we have wrestling classes, we have all kids classes. Like we try to touch on
and
all
the
the
strength
bases.
And conditioning.
Strength and conditioning. We have HIIT classes. Like we do a little bit of everything, but it all comes down to our core team. You know, I took guys that were already in the at UFC gym, and I brought them over, and you know they all had a similar vision like me, and you know they just helped me make this thing grow. And, you know, I get to travel the world, you know, with all these guys for fighting, and I'll leave for weeks at a time, and the gym runs like if I was there. Yeah. So, you know, that I owe it a lot to the team that we have in place. And, you know, we're just keep growing. We're looking, you know, I'm looking to do a second location. I'm just, you know.
In Jersey or?
Yeah, probably Jersey, maybe a little closer to here, but, you know, time-wise, I'm trying to figure out how to manage that because, you know, the gym's not all about me, but I do feel like when I'm there, it's, you know, it like, I think people love that. I love them getting better.
You bring energy to that place that nobody else could bring.
Yeah. And again, our team does a good job, but it's, you know, I really love seeing people succeed. Like that's like, I just love it, man. Like whatever people decide they want to do. If you want to just get in the best shape of your life, I want to help you do that. If you just want to become a fighter, I want to do that. But you know, I truly care, and you know, it's really helped me or worked for me in my business right now.
I'm pumped to hear about the potential second location. I like to see good people win, especially people that serve other people. So I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped to hear about that. Yeah, that's what I was kind of alluding to. Like, hey, tell us a little bit more about what you got going on right there, because I was aware that, you know, you got a lot of stuff. Your members, do they kind of stay in their lane, or do a lot of them cross over and say, oh, okay, I'm going to do like a HIIT class and jiu-jitsu? Yeah,
we have a lot of people who blend it, and then we have some people who just stick to one thing.
You know what's awesome now? Like, I wonder, do you have any members that are coming in like as like pairs at the same time doing two different things? Because you have concurrent classes going on, right?
Families come in. So like there could be, let's say there's an 8-year-old kid and there's a kids class at, 5:30. We'll have a kickboxing class going on at the same time where the mom's jumping in, and then a jiu-jitsu class going on at the same time. Like,
that's what I'm talking about.
Or we'll mix it up. There'll be Muay Thai and boxing class.
Yeah.
Like, and
you can spend a whole day there.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and we don't limit anything. So like, there's people who come in the morning.
It's like
then
family
they come
fun
back,
center, dude. I'm
come
in.
back at night, and the kids. For a while, I kind of pulled back from the kids. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. It was just like I was trying to focus like on all these adults and the competitions and all this stuff. And then when my daughter started getting a little, older, it was like, man, I need to build something for her to have the option to want to do this, because I would love for my kids to do this, right?
Yeah.
I'm not forcing it on them, but if they want to train, I'm going to give them every resource that I can give them. And, so we started building this program, and, my daughter, who's 8 now, she loves it, right? Like if I tell her that she can't go to practice today, she's going to be at home crying that she can't go, right? And again, we don't force her to train.
Yeah.
She was terrified.
She's training jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, she's doing jiu-jitsu. And we do like an MMA class with them too.
Yeah.
So now she's like getting into like sparring and stuff.
She just won.
She just did double gold at Nog.
I did hear that. She's like a prodigy, basically.
Yeah, so like it's crazy what a year can do, because last year we signed her up. Mm-hmm. She goes out there and cried. Yeah. Right. She got so scared of the atmosphere and everything. She literally got taken down, was in side control, nothing happened, and she cried and like tapped in side control. Yeah. Right? And that, man, it broke my heart. Yeah. Like, I've been a coach on the biggest levels, seen wins, seen losses, like done all this stuff. This was like the hardest loss. This was the hardest loss for me. Yeah. And she was like, she was so broken, right? And then she was supposed to have another match, and then she was like, I don't want to do it. Yeah. And we're like, just go out there. Who cares if you win or you lose? Like, just go out and try. And she went out and she lost, but she had a smile on her face while she was losing. And that was like, man, it like literally almost made me cry.
It's funny. Like, I can empathize. We had the same thing with Parker's first couple of wrestling matches. Like, he went out there the first time, got teched, and like fought his like balls off, but like literally like just like the next week it was just crying. He's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Yeah. And he basically went out there and pinned a kid while crying. Yeah. Like, and it was like I was cornering him, like, this is the most uncomfortable like situation I probably like. I'm happy that my son's winning, but like, what am I doing? Like, but you really have to like, I feel, break that like that mold, like that get the edge off. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about going to war, like in jiu-jitsu or wrestling, for a little kid that like it's just hard to comprehend or like or build them up for.
It's a complete shock to the system. Mentally, physically, everything. Yeah.
And my daughter's like it's a tough situation because she's only 8 years old. She's almost 5 foot tall, right? She's like 4'11" and some change, right?
And I didn't realize she was 8 years old.
Yeah, she looks like she's 12. Yeah. And the crazy thing, she's not fat. Like she's 95 pounds and 8 years old and 5 foot tall, right? Wow. So like she goes in, she has to go up in age. Yeah. She has to go up in weight. Yeah. And she has to go up to boys. Like there's not many girls her size there. So even this tournament that she just did, right? She went out there and I was like, I don't know how it's gonna go. Yeah. She had the most confidence. She beat 3 boys and a girl, and man, it was like Brady winning the UFC championship. It was just like I was just so proud that she like just had this flip in the last year. Amazing. And I hope other parents get to experience that too. It's just cool being able to like coach it and see it.
I'm not looking forward to that moment with Everly. So my oldest daughter is 8 as well. And, she swims and she plays softball and stuff, but nothing as physical as jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Now I have another daughter who's 5 and they wrestle like to the death in the house, wrestling for them, you know what I mean? So there's some physicality, but like I dread that moment because like I know I'm going to start her in jiu-jitsu and I know she's going to have that moment and it's going to break my heart.
Yeah, you got to break the seal. I feel like, I mean, some kids, I feel like the boys on the team, the wrestling team that have like 3 brothers, they don't give a shit.
Yeah,
like, they're like, it's another day for them, dude. Like they'll go to war any day.
Yeah. Is that anything could happen? But our youngest kid, our second boy, he gets beat up in our house all day, right? From the other 2, and he's just tough. Yeah, right? I think he's gonna be. The one we'll see.
He won't have to go through that breaking of the
because he's ready. He's trying to go into the practices now. He's too young for the.
How old is he?
He's 2.
Okay.
But we start at 3 at our gym.
Oh really? I mean,
3 to 5. Yeah. So that one's more of like fun and trying to get them used to listening to a coach and how to do a forward roll, how to do a stand up, stuff like that.
He comes to the gym with you, right?
So my door to my business is right here. Yeah. My wife owns a spray tanning lounge.
So that's the second business you were talking about.
Yeah, no, so that's just hers. So,
okay.
Yeah, I run like Fury Grappling.
Okay, yes, of course. Yeah.
But so like her door's right here, and then there's a door in the back that connects the 2. So our kids are just there.
That's
right?
Beautiful.
Like, they grew up in a gym. Beautiful. Like I always say, like people will say something around the kids, and I'm like, man, my kids are gym kids. It's like that. They're growing up a little different than other kids, and sometimes I'm like, man, I got to shelter them a little more, and then it's like, no, like they get to see people come in, work their asses off every day, achieve goals, and I think that's the best thing that you can give a child. So. You can show them that whatever they want to do, they can go out and do it.
It's hope. It's hope in action.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We have one of my teammates at Martinez. He brings his 2 kids in, and he has a 2-year-old boy. Yeah. Who's been coming in for probably a year, and then he has a daughter. That's, I guess, almost a year. Yeah. And he has a little octagon that he brings in. He sets the octagon up, and it's literally an octagon, like a photo thing. And he puts him in there. And his son, just from being there for a year, like when they're messing around in the thing, like his son will put his daughter in side control, just from messing, just being there and absorbing it. So that's why I was asking about your son.
It's funny, with Will Martinez, and then him and Julio Rosario, who in Semperfi. Those are 2 people that they don't know that, but I look up to them when it comes to running a kids program. I remember going to Nagas and stuff when I was a teenager, and these guys are out there, with these, it was like an army of kids that they would have, and they would just go out there and the kids would kick butt, and I just loved what they did and how they coached, and it wasn't, if their kids lost, they weren't out there getting all pissed and doing all stuff. It was just a learning lesson, right? And they're telling them, hey, put your head up, you
went out there.
You went out there, you're brave. I remember, I've sat next to them and while they're saying that stuff, and that's a big thing for me now is I try to replicate what I saw. They're 2 the kind of pioneers in this area that I saw that had really good kids programs.
Yeah. It's still going on. Battle of the Beach down, just a couple weeks ago or whatever. Will's down there, and with the army of kids. I'll never forget last summer, I went to class, and he runs kids camp during the summer. It's a week or 2. And I remember we got kicked. He's got 2 mats, 2 sides of the building. He's had 2 mats. We got kicked off our mat because there were too many kids. So we had to switch with the kids for the kids camp. So he's still going on. Yeah.
I started at Semperfi too with Julio. Great coach, great person, and he really does care about the kids too. He said, it's just you could tell he treats them like his own.
Yeah. I just went and did a seminar there not too long ago.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it was the way he has those kids, just the respect that the kids have, and you could tell he just when they did a move right, he was so excited for them. Yeah, man, you did it. He was so enthusiastic, and sometimes I'm not the most enthusiastic person, because I'm more of the surfer, chill. I don't surf. I'm scared of the ocean. but everyone always tells me I'm just kind of calm and whatever. And but he's just there and like excited, and you know, I try to do that. It tries to come out, you know, where I try to be more enthusiastic like him. But you know, like I said, they do an awesome job over there.
Yeah, amazing. So that's what we kind of got on. We went off on a great tangent, but a little bit of a tangent. So now you're starting to focus on that at Webb as well, right?
Yeah, so we're building our kids program now,
nice.
And you know, we're still obviously doing all the adult stuff, but the kids are the next ones, and they're, you know, I remember being a young gun in the sport, and people telling me like, hey, you're like, you know, gonna be the next thing in the sport, right? And now these kids are that, right? Like now, and I got to keep up with these kids, right? Like if not, they're gonna pass me by a mile. Like even just the last 5-10 years, jiu-jitsu has changed so much. Yeah. Right. Like it's now there's money in it. Right. The techniques are insane. I don't even know half the names of the moves anymore. Right. But you know, I got these guys at my gym, like these young kids that like know everything. Right. They know all these names and they help me. I know the position, but I'm like, hey, what's the name of this one again? You know, but you know, I try to keep up as much as I can, and because I don't want to be left in the dust.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, that's another element of your life, like livelihood that you have to keep up with, like not only the entrepreneur stuff, but like the fighting stuff, and then now like jiu-jitsu's ever evolving, so like now you got to stay on top of that too. So,
I mean, they're the next in the sport, but like, you know, they're also the next generation. So like the work that you're doing is creating like stronger, more resilient, more capable adults. Yeah. You know what I mean? That are going to take the reins from us and the country when we're, you know, old and gray.
Yeah.
So it's important.
If we just let it go and don't try to do anything to help it, it's not gonna be good for us. So you know, we got to do our best and try to touch as many people as possible and give them the resources that we have to try to, you know, make a better future.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Bringing it full circle, paying it back.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
what you're doing in a payback era, man. What you're doing.
That's where we're at.
This was amazing, man. This was a great episode. I'm so grateful that you came in. I'm grateful that, you know, I finally got to meet and spend some time with you. And where can the community kind of knows already, but where can the community, for those that don't know, where can the community find you? You know, on social? Where can they find the gym on social?
Yeah, so I mean, me personally, it's just at Jonavin Webb on everything, and then the gym is just Webb Fitness and MMA or WebbMMA.com. And again, we're, you know, this is still just the beginning for me. I really think that I have bigger things to do and more people to touch. So, you know, I just want to keep spreading positivity, and I think what you guys do is awesome, man. I really just love you know, the message that you guys put out, and that's why when I got this call to come on here, I was excited, you know, and I was like, man, whatever day you guys need to make it happen, whatever time, I'm going to do it, because I really love what you guys are pushing, you know, just that positivity and hard work, and, you know, I just think you're doing the right thing for that next generation.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much, man. There's a lot of alignment in the missions that we're on.
And we appreciate you always believing, like, even from like day one, you've always been like wearing our stuff and like supporting us. I appreciate that, John.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Very grateful for you, man. All right, I'm gonna tie it up. I'll leave the few with a reminder. Always choose hard work over handouts. Always choose effort over entitlement. Remember, no one owns you, no one owes you. You're one of the few. Now let's hunt.